The NFL has screwed the New Orleans Saints once again, Who Dat Nation, and I'm going to tell you what they did this time in today's video. I'm also going to tell you why I think the New Orleans Saints actually deserve a little bit more credit than they've been given. Welcome into Saints Now by Chat Sports. As always, I'm your host, Trizzy Trace Girouard. Thank you so much for tuning into today's video. Let's just start this whole conversation by describing what is the net rest edge in the National Football League. Obviously, the 2025 schedule was released last week, but the Saints don't get a lot of rest. Let me explain. The net rest edge is a measure of the total days of extra rest a team has compared to their opponents over the course of the season. While it may seem insignificant, it is a factor that can't be ignored. An example of this, if the Chiefs have a full 7-day bye week ahead of their game versus the Raiders, and the Raiders play on Monday Night Football and are on a short week, the Chiefs have a rest edge of plus 8 days before their game against the Raiders. Conversely, the Raiders have a rest edge of minus 8 days. So we understand the net rest edge. This is where they screwed the Saints. They did not give the Saints hardly any time to rest throughout this entire season. They're actually the second lowest net rest edge in 2025 throughout the entire National Football League, only second to the Raiders. The Saints are at minus 14. The Raiders are at minus 19. And I will say this, with the Saints being one of the teams with the least amount of rest, it's just so unfortunate. This NFL is screwing the Saints. Clearly, they're terrified that Tyler Shough and Kellen Moore are going to take over the National Football League. Not really. But anyway, the NFL did screw the New Orleans Saints, and we're going to go into full detail on this net rest edge here in just one moment. Really quick, I need to remind you, subscribe to Saints Now for free content around the black and gold. It's Saints content by fans, for fans, and this is your one-stop shop to get all things around the black and gold. And here's a quick update on our race to 50K. Nice. Let's get to 46,169 so we can keep this thing rocking and rolling. We're kicking the Browns report ass, so let's keep pouring it on them, Who Dat Nation. The race to 50K, we're so damn close. Thank you, by the way, for helping us get to 46K. So let's talk about the net rest edge days for the 2025 season across the entire National Football League here. So what we're going to do is go through all of the net rest days, the ranking all 32 teams, starting off with the Lions, who the Saints are at minus 14. The Lions are at plus 13. So the Saints are losing 2 weeks of rest. The Lions are gaining about 2 weeks to rest. The Cowboys and the Chargers, they're getting plus 5 days as well. And you can see a lot of these teams higher up, if you continue to look, will be higher on the totem pole of, the NFL power rankings for the most part. And I'm not going to sit here and say it's a, 1-to-1. It's the gospel. Whoever gets a higher net rest is a great team. The lower teams are always bad. That's not necessarily true. But you see with the Buccaneers, they were plus 1, the Falcons minus 1, and then you keep this thing rolling, and then that's where you find the Panthers and the Saints at minus 5 and minus 14. So throughout the entire National Football League, the Saints are at minus 14 days. Again, the Raiders are the only team that have a worse rest days throughout the entire 2025 season. And I will also add, the fact that the Saints have 0 primetime games this season does make an impact there, because they don't have that extra day to get ready on a Monday, or that extra day of rest on the back end after our Thursday night football game. So with the Saints not having any primetime games, I'm totally okay with it. They're not going to be anything super amazing this year. At least I expect that to be the case. But it just isn't a reason to put the Saints on primetime. They've been disastrous ever since you put them on primetime the last few years. So for me personally, I don't mind that the Saints don't have primetime games this year, but I do mind that the NFL is absolutely trying to screw over New Orleans. I'm going to tell you a little bit more here in just 1 second, but first I got to tell you guys about today's presenting sponsor, and that is Prize Picks. It's the best place to get real money sports action. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 2,000 times your cash. You just run your game all season long on Prize Picks. And don't miss your chance to add your favorite players from the ice in your Prize Picks lineup. Look, NFL season, that's my jam. I'm not a huge basketball guy, but I really, really like hockey. So for this Lineup, I'm a Stars fan. Shout out to my guys. I'm going Miro Heiskanen and Jake Ottinger, one of the best goalies in the frickin' world. I'm taking the more on theirs, and then I'm taking the more on Evander Kane's shots on goal, just 2.5. I think that that's some free money right there. And you can fade my picks. You can tell my picks. I don't care what you do. Just make sure you do it with Prize Picks. You can also check out the basketball, baseball, college sports, esports, anything in between. Prize Picks has you covered. You can win real money in real time with Prize Picks. So sign up today, get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Download Prize Picks today. The app is 100% free. You just sign up and get everything squared away and signed up. Use code CLNS when you create an account. You'll get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code CLNS on Prize Picks to get that $50 bonus when you play $5. Reminder to run your game with Prize Picks. All that information is clickable in the comments and description of this video. So with New Orleans' schedule in terms of the rest days, let's go through week by week and see how much rest they're getting each week throughout this season. So week 1, 2, and 3. This is pretty standard across the board. Some teams will have a +1 or a -1 or whatever like that, but nothing really too crazy here. When you get to week 4 at the Bills, you're at a -3 rest days. And then when you get to week 5, you're actually back at 0 for these 2 weeks. Bears and Buccaneers, both +1 games, but this is where you really lose some time. Week 9 at the Rams, they're coming off of a bye, so they have 7 days of rest as opposed to the Saints, 0 days of extra rest. The Panthers, you get 0. Saints, you have a bye week in week 11, and then you host the Falcons in week 12, which you do get those 7 rest days because of the bye right here. So you see kind of how that adds up, it makes sense. So then we keep this thing rolling. Week 14 at the Buccaneers, no rest days. Week 15, you lose 7 rest days because the Panthers are coming off of a bye. Week 16, week 17 at the Titans are both 0 as well. And then, with the... and then after that, it's week 18 versus the Falcons, and that's +1. So there you have it. So there you go. No problem. No, all good. So you lose or you gain days here, you lose days here. That's just kind of how this whole thing operates. And now in terms of how the NFC South all shaped up, the Saints, again, dead last in the NFC South in rest days. Buccaneers get 2 rest days. Falcons lose 1. Panthers lose 5. We lose 14. Look, I'm not going to sit here and try to sell you on some idea that the Saints were definitely not going to make the playoffs. I mean, they can. This has happened before where you don't have a lot of rest days and you still win the division, you still make the postseason. Those are true regardless. And I do think when it comes to the Saints, they do have the ability to become a playoff team, but it's just going to take a little bit of help and, honestly, a lot of surprises this year, to be totally honest. And look, I don't want to sit here and say that a playoff team is 100% out of the question. Now, when you go back in time and you look at the non-negative rest days in the playoffs, so 8 out of 14 teams in 2024 and in 2023 that made the playoffs either had a 0 or a positive net rest days, meaning 6 out of the 14 teams had negative net rest days. So if you do have more rest days, then you're more inclined and more likely to make the playoffs. It's not impossible. 6 out of 14 teams in both 2024 and in 2023 did make the postseason with a 0 or with a negative. But it's just unlikely. It's harder. So coming up, I do think that the Saints deserve more credit. And what do I mean by that? Well, I think that they actually have put together a decent roster. I don't think that this is going to be a massive, massive uphill battle to potentially win the NFC South. I think for what it's worth, that is your only path to the postseason, at least as we stand May 19th, 4:30 p.m. Central Time. I just think that they deserve more credit, though. They do have a very easy strength of schedule, and according to Warren Sharp at Sharp Analysis, it's the 3rd easiest strength of schedule. And for what it's worth, if you can make that a factor that's a positive, if you can use that to your advantage, I think that the Saints can set themselves up for success. They also have an underrated roster, in my opinion, with really good additions in players like Justin Reed, bringing back Chase Young. I really like Juwan Johnson. I'm excited to see him work this year with Kellen Moore. I'm looking forward to a young head coach and a young and hungry coaching staff with a lot to prove. I mean, their Saints are not going to roll with a veteran quarterback on the roster. They believe that their coaching staff kind of fills that void for the veteran quarterback role. Not to mention defensively, you still have some really good players, especially some young guys. And I think that the NFC South just isn't a gauntlet. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say that this is a difficult division. It's not. It's one of the worst divisions in all of sports. I really do think that if things go poor, I'm not wishing for them. But if you have a couple injuries at some key positions, you see the Falcons, you see the Buccaneers start losing games. If you see players not live up to potential that were draft picks, you see them start losing games. So for the New Orleans Saints, potential outcomes, in my opinion, lie down to three things. One, New Orleans just straight up surprises everybody. And this team is actually ridiculously good. And they don't take any steps back. They actually take a bunch of steps forward. And Tyler Shough is a freaking rock star. And Chris Olave is unbelievable. Alvin Kamara has 1,000 rushing yards. Like, maybe they just surprise everybody. Maybe this team is absolutely insane. And the coaching staff alone was what fixed this team. The other option, they backpedal into the playoffs. And just because they are merchants of a shitty division, maybe that can get them into the postseason. And this has kind of been the theme the last few years for the NFC South. The division champion hasn't been crowned until week 17 or week 18. So, you have truly all year to potentially make the playoffs. And the Saints, the last few years, have been in the conversation, at least going into week 15 and 16. So maybe they could backpedal their way into the playoffs and just, accidentally fall upwards. The last thing, and I do think that this is probably the most likely here, I just think the Saints will stink. And then they continue to look ahead. Like, for what it's worth, I don't want to give you guys this false hope and tell you there's going to be this insanely good season happening. Maybe it does. It could. But I think more realistically, 4 or 5 wins is really what we should expect. And we should use another high draft pick to continue to build the roster and look towards the future. I mean, this is a whole reset and a rebuild of 2-3 years. We are in year 2 of it. So maybe things can turn around. But I think more likely we're just going to have to struggle this year. It's going to be a down year, again, more down than it has been in the past. And we just continue to build for the future. And I don't think that's a bad thing either. We're going to get clowned. We're going to get made fun of. People are going to drag us for it. But at the end of the day, we know we're moving in the right direction, and that's forward. We're not focused on the previous years, and we're not focused on the past like we have been. We are looking ahead, trying to build for the future. That's the big key, what I want to see this year with the Saints. I don't need to see them win 10-plus games. I don't need to see them score 40 points a game. I just need to see them show me some things that they can build on, they can work with, and continue to build ahead. Now, predict the Saints' future record. Predict the Saints record for me in 2025. Get down in the comment section and let me know your thoughts. Who Dat Nation, really appreciate y'all for tuning in and rocking and roll with us today. We had another video get posted. You're actually about to see it pop up on your screen. So if you want to get the latest on the Chris Olave trade rumors, click on the screen here momentarily. And without further ado, y'all stay golden. We'll see you next time.